Welcome to the Have More Fun podcast. In this episode, I talk with Erin Loechner about why getting up early is awesome, tips for having a healthy relationship with social media, and how to change the rules when they aren't working for you.
Here's one of the tricks. If anybody's trying this, you have to do iced coffee and not hot coffee. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't work with hot coffee. I'm almost like, oh my gosh, this day is dragging on forever. How do you last all day long with this? This is crazy. I'm ready for bed. I'm known in my own circles. I'm not the fun friend. I'm not the let's go to Vegas and celebrate your birthday friend. I'm like the when the world falls apart, come sit on my couch and we'll have a glass of wine friend.
There's a secret common denominator that 99% of the most successful people I know adhere to. It is a strategy that anyone can implement, doesn't require any special talent, and is scientifically proven to enhance not only productivity, but happiness as well. And what is this insider secret? Waking up early. American founding father Benjamin Franklin, in his book titled Early Rising, said, "The early morning has gold in its mouth." And 2,000 years before that, the Greek philosopher Aristotle said, "It is well to be up before daybreak, for such habits contribute to health, wealth, and wisdom." Wisdom from both ancient and modern times tells us that getting a jump start on the day contributes to mental, physical, and spiritual wellness. Even the majority of religions share the belief that waking up early is beneficial. The Bible, when talking about the attributes of a virtuous woman, includes that she rises while it is still dark to provide for her household. Jewish scholars rise before dawn to recite the morning prayer, known as the Asher Yatzar, a blessing that glorifies God for creating the body and for preserving humankind's health and life. Buddhist monks are up a few hours before dawn to chant, and Hindus consider the time between 3:30 and 5:30 a.m. as sacred, a period also known as Brahma Muhurta, which means the time of the Creator. This is even a topic that religious scholars and scientists can agree on. In fact, during a recent study of college students at Texas University, researchers found that the students who got up early earned higher GPAs than their late-night counterparts. Not to mention that the early birds self-reported as being more positive and feeling happier and healthier than those who slept in. And what does all of this tell us? I don't want to overstate this, but waking up early might just be the single best decision you will ever make in your entire life. If you want to be more successful, happier, and healthier, one first step might be to set your alarm a little earlier. A great resource to kickstart your new routine is a book by Hal Elrod called The Miracle Morning. It's one of the highest rated books on Amazon with over 2,500 five-star reviews. And it's based on the premise that how you start your day largely determines the quality of your day. And in order to help you start your day right, The Miracle Morning lays out a transformative morning ritual and teaches night owls how to reset their internal clocks. It's the ultimate book for anyone who wants to see if the early bird really does get the worm. My guest today, Erin Loechner, lives this early riser secret to the extreme. I won't ruin it for you, but there is a very surprising part of our conversation where she shares her sleep schedule. It's going to make you rethink everything you know about when to go to sleep and when to wake up. Erin is one of the kindest and most sincere people you will ever meet. She exudes charisma and yet is the friend who would bring you homemade soup when you catch a cold. She's also a trendsetter, not only because she has impeccable taste, but also because she lives differently than what's expected. She plays by her own rules, and I adore her for it. Erin is the author of Chasing Slow and founder of Design for Mankind. Her heartfelt writing and design work has been showcased in the New York Times, Parenting, Dwell, Marie Claire, the Huffington Post, and also she had a 2-season HGTV.com web special garnering over 1 million fans worldwide. She has spoken for and appeared in renowned international events for clients such as Walt Disney, IKEA, Martha Stewart, and Home Depot. Now nestled in a Midwestern town, Erin, her husband, and their 2 kids strive for less in most areas, except 3: joy, grace, and as she says, goat cheese. Don't you just love her already? Without further ado, here's my friend, Erin Loechner. Okay, Erin, so I've been totally looking forward to chatting with you today. And your book, Chasing Slow, is my companion for a long Sunday afternoon read yesterday. And I love how you start out the book talking about your experiences living in LA and how there came a day when you and your husband decided to change all of the rules of your life. And you talk about how the normal instructions for life include logging a lot of hours at the office to pay for more things that typically require you to work even longer hours, and how most people live by the rules that say work hard and play hard, but mostly just work hard. But you guys decided to completely rip up the rules, and you say that when you did, you began to remove the bumpers of cultural expectations, and the world became a wildly fun game, which, I mean, who doesn't want to make those kind of radical changes in their lives and experience the world as a wildly fun game? And then you said that the rule breaking spilled into your everyday life. And when it did, that your life felt slower and lighter. And so, will you talk about how you got to that point where you knew it was time to make a change, and then how you found the courage to kind of rip up the rule book and do something different?
Yes. Oh my goodness, you're taking me back. Yeah, it's funny because I don't ever want to, I guess, give the impression that it's easy, right? I think everything requires a trade-off of some sort. Nothing is free in the sense. So at least for me, I really had to hit rock bottom to take that other option completely out of the picture, right? So I had been living so fast and being a young 20 something, for me, living fast meant spending 3 hours on the 405, working a job that I didn't necessarily feel was leading to anything important for my life or any contribution really for anyone. You kind of go through the motions thinking that you're paying your dues and this is what you should be doing, which has validity as well. But there was no end goal in sight for me. There was nothing I was working toward other than like immediate daily approval, job well done kind of stuff. So I think for me, it came down to understanding that life was short, a lot shorter than we think that it is. I couldn't stomach the fact that perhaps I was chasing the wrong thing, and that perhaps I was, given that everything is a trade-off, putting work over my marriage, putting work over my home, putting work over my community, to be honest, with this crazy commute. I knew no neighbors. And so I think for me, I just had to really hit that point where I felt um, so estranged from what I thought God would want me, from the way that I thought God would want me to live my life. And I know that that sounds, I don't know how that sounds, but that's exactly how I felt, as if I was not living the way that I was intended to live. And that was the point where I just decided even the smallest change is going to do something.
Yeah. So sometimes it takes hitting rock bottom to realize I want to reinvent what my life looks like, what the pace of my life is, which is what your book, Chasing Flow, talks a lot about. And now you live in the Midwest and have 2 kids. And I love how you said you're striving for less of everything except grace, joy, and goat cheese, because who doesn't love goat cheese?
Oh, yeah.
And I really like how you say that we aren't doing ourselves any favors when we look to the crowd to tell us where we are. And I don't know about you, but so many of the people that I interact with on a daily basis, including myself, we're measuring ourselves by our external circumstances. We are analyzing ourselves to death. We are bombarded by all sorts of information. And instead of just really loving the life that is right before us, we are constantly striving for more and for better. And so you say that thinking about living is not the same as actually living. And so how have you embraced that philosophy of living well?
I love that question. I love talking about the trap that we get into so easily with even just knowing what everyone else is up to. Do you know what I mean? I feel
Yes.
like there were generations before us where you knew literally what your town was doing with your town paper and perhaps the U.S. news, and really that was it. And I'm not saying that that was the best. I'm not saying that it's great to be in your own little world, but I also feel like, in a sense, it does make you hyper focused and hyper aware, and it does enable you to see your own small sphere of influence for what it is, and see that you are enabled to do work there. And so when I say that thinking about living is not the same as living, what that means to me is that I can dream and plan for a picture perfect life. I have my certain set of values that in a dream world, for me, that would mean go live in a cabin in the woods and live off the land, right? And it's completely not our reality, given that my husband wouldn't come with me because he's not on board. But I think a lot of us get in that trap where we see everyone doing these really cool things, and we see everyone making a mark on the world, and we think, I want to do that. I could do that. I have the skill set to do that, or the resources to do that, or whatever. The limitations suddenly seem as if they're not present when we're scrolling through the phone looking at other people's lives, right? It looks like we're just one click away from that. And it's not true. And that's thinking about living and actually living given your own certain set of limitations and your own boundaries that you've been given. And so I had to come to a point where I thought, sure, who can't dream this? And dreams are not bad. Dreams are not wrong. Dreams are for a purpose. But I think at some point they become a hindrance to working with what you have. And instead of adopting this life philosophy that could be perfect for you, sometimes it's about adapting the life that you've already been given.
Wow, that's powerful. And I actually find it really cool to hear you talking about this and saying this, because I think there's a lot of people who would look at you and the things you've accomplished in your life and be like, Erin has made it. She's done some legit things. I want to be like Erin, right? So what do you say to those people who are looking at you and going, man, if only I could be like Erin?
Oh my goodness. I'm not shy about ever offering reality, right? I'm not ever one to wallow in the mess. I would never say that that anything that I share is inauthentic in a sense, but I would say, come over, right? Come over and come to my house. And you don't really know what you're going to get on any given day, just because no one is the same on any given day. So I would honestly, I always invite people who would wonder, what is the life of anyone like? I would just offer them a glimpse into what real life is like, which is the same as everyone's real life, right? This morning I bought toilet paper and cold brew coffee at the grocery store, and then I came home and my kids and I hunted for slugs, and I picked up dog poop with my Kroger plastic bags and cleaned those for a second. So I just, it's the same, totally. Right? And we live the same life. We live very different lives, but the same life. And so I would never be shy about admitting this is, everyone can write a really good bio that makes them sound a lot more shiny for the purposes they need it to sound shiny, and I'm very thrilled with the things that I've done. I'm grateful for them, and I'm proud of them, and I worked hard, and I feel as if they've been used in really powerful ways, and I love that. So I don't want to say, oh yeah, it's nothing. I don't want to shrug my shoulders and say that it's nothing. And I think everybody has parts of their story that they're so proud of as well. So I wouldn't shy away from that part of it either. But I would also say, come poop or scoop in the backyard with me. Absolutely.
One thing I really like, I follow you on Instagram, and you do you call it the good list?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's so beautiful. Posting just a few lovely things that you appreciate throughout the day. And I think it normalizes so much, you are on the hunt for good things, which completely resets the way we approach the course of any given day. And I think when we collectively are looking for good things, and it's the small, minute occurrences that happen, or beautiful things that our kids say, or the way a shadow falls on a plant. Every time I see your post, I'm inspired to look for good as well. So I just feel like you are bringing hope and noticing and beauty to the world. So follow Erin on Instagram for sure.
Thank you. You know what's really funny about that, really quick? that practice was completely born out of just a total burnout with social media. I'm never anyone that follows anything that I do online. It is not a surprise to know that social media is not my favorite. It's not my go-to, meaning that I'm not super comfortable with it. Not even private person. I mean, I write online, but just I think too much about that. Am I giving off this false sense of reality, or am I making it seem like this life is too aspirational, or whatever it is. I think you just second guess what you're doing anytime that you're given
Mhm.
responsibility in an arena, and I feel like having a voice requires responsibility. So I found that I was so concerned with how these messages were being received, and how these messages were being offered, that I couldn't, it was almost as if I had silenced myself for a long time. And I couldn't figure out how to get past this social media block I was having. And I was starting to resent it. And I was starting to resent being on Instagram at all. And so I thought, okay, well, how can I make this fun again? How can I make this fun for me? How can I grow from it and learn from it? And use it as an intended purpose, and hopefully other people would use it as that intended purpose, in terms of how they're receiving these messages. And so um, I just started writing out the same gratitude list that I write at night before I go to bed. It was already a practice. So it was already something that I had going anyway. And it was just as simple as um, copying and pasting that into, the little Instagram window and calling it a day. So I found that I was no longer, I don't know if that's selfish now that I'm saying it out loud. It was because it was just for me. It wasn't necessarily documenting our days. It was just those tiny little minute things, like exactly what you said, shadow on a plant. Those beautiful things that most people have in every day, but are perhaps overlooking it. And I found that by allowing that burnout, that we talked about earlier, and allowing that rock bottom, something really beautiful was born, even though it's small and tiny and probably unimportant to most. It is such a valuable practice for me, and I found that I could relove part of my job again. I could relove that part of my work that I needed to learn to love.
Which is another example of you kind of tearing up the rules and reinventing something to work in a way that feels like you're thriving instead of just surviving or doing what everyone else is expecting of you. And which is one thing I feel like you have a gift to offer the world constantly. You're teaching us that at any point, if something's not working for us, we have the ability to reinvent it or rethink it or shape it into something that is serving us really well and bringing life instead of exhaustion.
Yes, I'm really, and I've never thought about it that way, but you're right. I'm very passionate about um, tearing up the rules, about freeing yourself, not even from society's burdens, but from our own expectations. You know what I mean? I feel like sometimes we are the ones who cage ourselves. And I was just having this conversation with my husband. We switched work hours about about 2 years ago. We adopted my son, and he came very suddenly, and it was a whirlwind, quick adoption. And before I was working in the morning, I would sneak out to a coffee shop at 5:30 in the morning and go to yoga and come home by 10 so I could, be a mom with my older daughter. And that was suddenly not working, right? Because newborns, they don't follow your schedule. And so I started this really odd practice of going to bed at 6 p.m. and waking up at 2 a.m. because the baby was probably going to be up anyway, right? So he would be up at 2 a.m. and then my husband and I would switch off, and I would just work in the still and the quiet and the dark of the night from like 2 to 5 a.m. or whatever small window I could stretch in while the baby would sleep. And then who knows if he would actually sleep that night. He was a crazy sleeper, but I would guarantee to be up between 2 and 5 a.m. And even though my son sleeps through the night now, I still do that. I still keep to that schedule. And I know it's crazy. right? Because I'm going to bed at 6. I miss everything at night. But I love it. And I feel like sometimes you have to just get creative and accept the trade-off, right? The trade-off meaning I don't do dinner most nights. I don't cook dinner. Some I do. I don't do dishes. I don't do the nightly bath. I don't do the bedtime routine. And I don't make myself feel guilty about it. And then I wake up at 2 a.m. and get my work done, and then I can be home all day with the kids. So again, there's a trade-off. But when you tear up those rules, and you piece them back together, you get to keep what you want to keep, and you get to keep what you choose and what's most important. And for me, prioritizing writing and family was possible by kind of bending those rules a little bit, and given the incredible support of my husband, who does, the bath and the dinner waltz, every night, which is when he gets his time with the kids. So, I don't know. I like how you frame that, because I think it's a really important thing for about a lot of us to remember, is that some of these rules are self-imposed, and we think they're written in stone, but they're not.
Okay, there are so many things that I enjoy about what you just said, and I have so many questions. So it's easy for you to wake up at 2. It's just like your normal practice.
I mean, it is now, yeah, for sure. And I don't know. Here's one of the tricks. If anybody's trying this, you have to do iced coffee and not hot coffee. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't work with hot coffee. You just need, or I don't know, I'm not a person, maybe you people are like iced tea instead of hot tea, but, and then, they say, I didn't do this. I have a weird internal clock. And again, I was up anyway with the baby. So it's kind of like you catch sleep when you can, but I've always heard it suggested to kind of set your alarm back 30 minutes earlier, 30 minutes earlier, 30 minutes earlier. The other thing is, you're just going to be so tired that you'll get sleep. Like, if you do it a couple days in a row, you're going to be so tired at 6 p.m. naturally.
You're ready to go.
Get some blackout shades and call it a day.
Wow. Okay. I'm so fascinated. And I feel like this fits in a book I just read where it talked about like all different creative geniuses, and they had such different like work rhythms, and they kind of did the same thing. They'd be up super early in the morning doing their work. But holy cow, I love that this is like your daily rhythm.
It's weird. I love it too. I didn't expect to love it as much as I did.
I can see how like the still of the morning is a really spectacular time to focus and do work and be up and enjoy the quiet. So
yeah,
I'm pretty inspired by that schedule.
It is.
And also you don't have to cook dinner. So
I know, right? I get like a free card, and that's when, the kids are bananas anyway. So I feel like I get the good end of the stick. And on the weekends when I'm awake, I'm almost like, oh my gosh, this day is dragging on forever. How do you last all day long with this? This is crazy. I'm ready for bed.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm thinking about trying this out, because I really like that schedule.
You'll love it.
Yeah.
I have a feeling. Yes.
Can we talk about motherhood for a little bit? Because being a working mom myself, I have, and I've said this many times, but like chronic low-grade mom guilt.
Mm-hmm.
But you said something in your book that stuck with me, and you said, motherhood has taught you that the opposite of control isn't chaos. The opposite of control is surrender. And surrender's kind of a hard word, I feel like, because I really like to like white knuckle things and make things work. Surrender is actually a really powerful posture. And I think so many times we confuse it with weakness, but is actually more powerful than that. Will you talk about how that realization kind of happened in your life and how you view motherhood and that idea of surrender?
Yeah, I mean, same. I'm a white knuckler as well. And I think any new foray into motherhood, it wrecks you in that way, and that you're just being introduced to a new part of yourself that was always there, right? It was always right on. I mean, any mom that always says, I had no idea I was ragey, right? Like, but like before kids, you're still you on the other end of it. It's just, you have, you're carrying someone else, and that can be exhausting, right? And we can sweat a lot and cry a lot over that. And so, for me, my first encounter with my need to surrender was just in that I never understood motherhood was hard. I know this seems so silly, but I was not surrounded by babies. I was not surrounded by young mothers. I'm the youngest of 3 girls, but I was in LA when my older sisters were having children, and they just made it look really easy. They just did. So not their fault. And actually they are fantastic mothers. So I see why it looked so easy. But I know I felt unprepared. I felt unprepared for this utter sense of failure that I felt every day. My daughter was really colicky, and I don't know if you had this experience. I just felt unnurturing. Like all the advice says that you'll know what your baby needs, and you'll know exactly what to offer her, and she will want you and you alone. And that was not her. She was just independent, complete. I mean, the best example I can give is I called my midwife crying. And I'm like, I can't get this baby to settle down. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I think I'm not cut out for this. And she said, and at this point, my daughter was probably, 4 months old, still screaming. And so my midwife said, Erin, you have to put her in the crib, go outside, take some deep breaths. Right now, the safest place for her is in the crib. And I'm like, okay. Because before, I'm reading all the attachment parenting books, and I'm like, I thought that because I was lacking in nurturing, I need to be more nurturing. So I'm trying to add like all of these like attachment, like the baby burrito swaddle and all of it. So I put her in her crib and I go outside to take 5 deep breaths. And my husband comes running outside and he's like, that's the second your energy left the house, that baby was fine. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're right. I did it to her. It's me, which made me feel even worse. But in reality, that is totally her personality. She is like, y'all just leave me alone for a second. I need a breath. Okay. I need some time. Leave me by myself. I want to figure it out on my own, which is so me too. So, right. Isn't that how it works? But anyway, all that to say, that was my first encounter with not only how little I could control, but by trying to control it, I was making it worse. And so, for me, the concept of surrender, and I agree, this is a tricky thing because a lot of times I confuse it with throwing in the towel, right? Like, okay, whatever, anything goes. But it's almost as if I use this phrase a lot. It's that balance between honoring life's weight and holding it loosely. So you're not taking it seriously, right? But you're just you're not letting the world revolve around you anymore, right? So you're when you release the world from when you release yourself from spinning the world on its axis, you can suddenly see what the world actually looks like for everybody, and it's far more beautiful and far more as it was intended to be, and including your children, including your community, including your family, and just the greater world at large. And so I've just taken myself out of the center of the story. I think for me, when I think of surrender, I think letting other people help me parent my kids. I think letting my kids make decisions that they're fully capable of making. When I think of surrender, I think of putting my husband first at times, or prioritizing other things and trusting that my children are going to be fine because I haven't placed myself in the center of their story.
Yes, totally. There is a question at the back of your book that you say you ask yourself regularly, and it's something along the lines of, is this bringing vitality to my life? And so you say you use that whether it's in making a purchase or employing a parenting technique, and just kind of that is the question that you use to help evaluate just the choices you're making on a daily basis. Is that still a question that you utilize, and how does that play out in like your everyday decision making?
I would say yes. I would say, it's so funny because I think of the stem of vitality as being vital, right? Is it essential? Is it necessary? Is it at the core of what I need to be doing? And I feel like for me, asking me that question will offer 2 responses, right? Either I will care more about something or I will care less about something. But either way, you're getting your answer, right? You're learning more about what your priorities are. When I think about having people over for dinner, right? I'm a total introvert. And so, but I love people. So I'm social. I just don't get my energy from that necessarily. So I found in the past, hosting has been really draining, but it's only because I'm thinking about the other things and thinking about the wrong things, not the wrong things, but gosh, did I overcook the shrimp? And is this person comfortable? And should we have seated this person here because it's a bench and not a chair? Or I don't know, just I would overthink every tiny detail. And when I think about caring more and caring less and what's vital and what's not, and I find that those priorities are they're very quick to surface, and it just offers a bit of more direction throughout the day. So I would say, yeah, I do still ask myself that question. And a lot of times the answer is that is absolutely not vital in any way to anything that I'm supposed to be doing. And still it's a choice, I could still choose to do it if it offers a different purpose. That's okay too.
I just think that's such a resourceful question for so many choices, even the small choices that we make during the day. My favorite question to ask all my friends is this: what is the best advice you never got?
Oh, for me, and I've just been thinking a lot about this because it's graduation season, and I wish that someone had told me as a child that it's not commencement, it's continuing, right? There's no before and after, there's just the after. And that decision that you make is the same decision every single day, right? Like anytime you make this grand sweeping life change, I think there's this tendency to think everything will fall into place, right? Like if you change up your diet, you're going to be a different person. Or if you buy that house in the country, life is going to make sense. And it's just you're continuing. The before is still just as much a part of your story. And honestly, you're still you on the other side of the change. So I wish that someone had I wish the phrase like turning over a new leaf was just gone. I hate that phrase. Because it's not that you can't change, but it's that at the core, that change isn't going to change who you are as a person. It might make things better and it might make things easier and simpler. But there will only be more things to wrestle with. And that's kind of the fun, right? I think that's the challenge of it. So I wish someone had told me that those before and after like weight loss stories you see at the magazine, like that person still has to wake up every single day and decide not to have a Big Mac and instead to make themselves a juice or whatever, whatever it is they're doing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish somebody had told me that as a kid.
Wouldn't that be so freeing to not think like what you're one move away from everything being all the stars aligning and the rest of your life being perfect, but instead it's just a continuation. It's one of my friends talks about this gift of beginning again. Like every moment is a moment to begin again, but it's not changing who you are entirely. It's just like this grace that we have at any moment to be the person who God created us to be in the fullness of who we are. And it's not forgetting who we have been, and it's not improving to be someone new. It's just like resting in that.
I love that.
In who we are. Yeah. Okay. Last question. How do you cultivate more fun in your life?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. So I'm known in my own circles. I'm not the fun friend. I'm not the let's go to Vegas and celebrate your birthday friend. I'm like the when the world falls apart, come sit on my couch and we'll have a glass of wine friend. I'm like the listener and every now and then the advice giver. But in terms of fun, we found a secret pond it's like behind this school that's, I don't know, less than a mile away from our house. And I can't stop going. And I don't know, I'm not an outdoorsy person, so I don't really know what's happening, but I'll just pack up the kids on a whim and we'll just bring like cheese and bread and whatever treat is in the pantry. And we'll just play on the dock, or my daughter's always making games up. And so we'll just play whatever game she's invented. We're collecting frogs. We've made this frog habitat. And we're just like rehabilitating frogs. I think probably what's cultivating more fun in my life is just being with my children, just being with my kids and letting them lead the way and following suit. I'm not one to I'm not like the Pinterest mom that downloads a bunch of like craft activities to keep them busy during the day. They're much more creative than I will ever than anything I could come up with. So I would say 100% my kids, just being with them and just letting them, just taking them at every whim and whatever it is they feel like doing that day. We homeschool, so that's easy to do. But I think I've taken out of the equation, what do I do with my kids today? And instead, if I just say good morning and stay silent, they will come up with 1,000 things to do. So I think the freedom and letting my kids be kids has been just a wonderful thing for my jolt of fun. I don't know if my friends would agree. They're still coming over for wine on the couch, so who knows? But I still won't be going to Vegas anytime soon. But it's just been a joy. They're at just really fun ages.
Oh, I love that so much. And I don't know about you, but like that's the kind of childhood I had too, where we were constantly out exploring and doing fun things. And those are the things that I hold as such treasured memories with my parents. It wasn't the trip to Disneyland. It wasn't those big things. It was like going to the pond and rehabilitating frogs. So I just think that's where the magic happens, in those small moments where you find a secret pond and go there with a picnic lunch and just spend hours enjoying the small things. So
Agreed.
Absolutely. Erin, you are a gift to the world and a gift to everyone who knows you. So thank you so much for your time today. Hey, thanks so much for listening. Erin is going to be with us at MomCon this year in September. We're gathering together with 3,000 of our closest friends in Louisville, Kentucky, and I would love to see you there. Go to momcon.mops.org to register. Now go out and have an adventure, and don't come back until you do.